At the end of this video, you should be able to list 4 kinds of lunar surface features and describe the 3 layers of the moon. Chapter 28, Section 1, Earth's Moon. A body that orbits a larger body is called a satellite. 7 of the planets in our solar system have smaller bodies that orbit around them. These natural satellites are also called moons. Our moon is Earth's natural satellite. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, which was the first artificial satellite launched into space. In 1958, the United States launched its first artificial satellite, which was named Explorer 1. Thousands of artificial satellites are now in orbit around Earth, including weather satellites and space telescopes, such as the Hubble Space Telescope. Exploring the Moon. Between 1969 and 1972, the United States sent 6 spacecraft to the Moon as part of the Apollo space program. Apollo astronauts found that the Moon's weak gravity affected the way they moved. They discovered that bouncing was more efficient than walking. Apollo astronauts also explored the Moon's surface in a variety of specially designed vehicles, such as the one on the screen here. The Moon has much less mass than Earth does, so the gravity on the Moon's surface is about 1/6 of the gravity on Earth. As a result, a person who has a mass of 61.2 kilograms and who exerts a 600 Newton force on Earth would exert only about 100 newtons on the Moon. The gravity at the Moon's surface is not strong enough to hold gases and therefore has no significant atmosphere. Because the Moon has no atmosphere to absorb and transport heat, the Moon's surface temperature varies greatly, from 134 degrees Celsius during the day to negative 170 degrees Celsius at night. The lunar surface. Because luna is the Latin word for moon, any feature of the Moon is referred to as lunar. Light and dark patches on the Moon can be seen with the unaided eye. The lighter areas are rough highlands that are composed of rocks called anorthosites. The darker areas are smooth, they reflect less light, and are called maria. Each dark area is a mare. Mare is Latin for sea. Galileo named these dark areas maria because he thought they looked like Earth's seas. Today, astronomers know that maria are plains of dark, solidified lava. These lava plains formed more than 3 billion years ago when lava slowly filled basins that were created by impacts of massive asteroids. Craters, rilles, and ridges. The surface of the Moon, shown on the screen here, is covered with numerous bowl-shaped depressions called craters. Most of the Moon's craters formed when debris left over from the formation of the solar system struck the Moon about 4 billion years ago. Younger craters are characterized by bright streaks, called rays, that extend outward from the impact site. Even these younger craters, however, are billions of years old. Long, deep channels, called rilles, run through the maria in some places. The Moon's rilles are thought to be leftover lava channels from the formation of the maria. Some rilles are as long as 240 kilometers. Another surface feature of the Moon is ridges. Ridges are long, narrow elevations of rock that rise out of the surface and crisscross the maria. Regolith. More meteorites have reached the surface of the Moon than have reached Earth's surface because the Moon has no atmosphere for protection. Over billions of years, these meteorites crushed much of the rock on the lunar surface into dust and small fragments. Today, almost all of the lunar surface is covered by a layer of dust and rock called regolith. Regolith is shown in Figure 3 on the screen now. The depth of the regolith varies from 1 meter all the way up to 6 meters. Lunar Rocks. Many lunar rocks are very similar to rocks on Earth. Lunar rocks, including the one shown here, contain many of the same elements as Earth rocks do, but lunar rocks contain different proportions of these elements. Lunar rocks are igneous, and most rocks near the surface are composed mainly of oxygen and silica. These surface rocks are similar to the rocks in Earth's crust. Rocks from the lunar highlands are light-colored, coarse-grained anorthosites. Highland rocks are rich in calcium and aluminum. Rocks from the Maria are fine-grained basalts and contain large amounts of titanium, magnesium, and iron. Nevertheless, lunar surface rocks have only small amounts of some elements that are common on Earth. Many of these elements have low melting points and have boiled off early in the moon's history, when the moon was still molten. Also, the minerals in lunar rocks do not contain water. One type of rock that occurs in both Maria and the highlands is Breccia. Lunar breccia contains fragments of other rocks that have been fused together. These breccias formed when meteorites struck the moon. The force of these impacts broke up rocks, and the heat from the impacts partially melted the fragments. The interior of the moon. Rocks of the lunar surface are about as dense as those on Earth's surface. However, the overall density of the moon is only 3/5 the density of Earth. The difference in overall density indicates that the interior of the moon is less dense than the interior of Earth. Most of the information about the interior of the moon comes from seismographs that were placed on the moon by the Apollo astronauts. Seismographs have recorded numerous weak moonquakes, which are similar to earthquakes. More than 10,000 moonquakes have been detected. Most moonquakes occur in the mantle at a depth that is 10 times deeper than the depth at which most earthquakes occur on Earth. From these moonquakes, scientists learn that the moon's interior is layered, as is shown on the screen here. The moon's crust. One side of the moon always faces Earth. That side is therefore called the near side. The other side always faces away from Earth and is called the far side. The pull of Earth's gravity during the moon's formation caused the crust on the far side of the moon to become thicker than the crust on the near side. On the near side, the lunar crust is about 60 kilometers thick. On the far side, the lunar crust is up to 100 kilometers thick. Images of the far side show that the far side's surface is mountainous and has only a few small maria. The crust of the far side appears to consist of materials that are similar to those of the rocks in the highlands on the near side. The moon's mantle and core. Beneath the crust is the moon's mantle. The mantle is thought to be made of rock that is rich in silica, magnesium, and iron. Of the moon's 1,738-kilometer radius, the mantle makes up more than half of that distance and reaches 1,000 kilometers below the crust. Scientists think that the moon has a small iron core that has a radius of less than 700 kilometers. When laser beams were bounced off of small mirrors placed on the moon, scientists discovered that the moon's rotation is not uniform. This non-uniform rotation indicates that the core is neither completely solid nor completely liquid. This characteristic might explain why the moon has almost no overall magnetic field. There are, however, small areas on the moon that exhibit local magnetism. At this point, you should be able to list 4 kinds of lunar surface features and describe the 3 layers of the moon.